everyone to another Friends from the Field webinar. If you're just arriving and you would like to share your name and where you live in the chat box, it's kind of fun to know where people are coming from since we can't actually meet you in person or see your faces. This is a series, if you're not familiar, that Blue Hill Heritage Trust and Island Heritage Trust co-hosts, and we do a webinar a couple times a month, and we have a huge archive of webinars that you can access. I'll put a link in the chat box in a little bit if you want to look at past webinars. We have a lot of wonderful ones to view. My name is Lander, and I'm the outreach coordinator for Blue Hill Heritage Trust. And before I introduce our speaker, Tate, I am going to pass it over to Noelle, and then I'll introduce Tate. Thank you all for being here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Noelle. I'm the outreach manager for Island Heritage Trust, and I'm so excited. This is my third webinar now. We will do some Q&A at the end. So if any questions come up during Tate's share, feel free to drop those in the chat box during the talk or at the end. And then we'll make sure that we share those with Tate so that we can get more knowledge from him. And you can also, I'm not seeing the raise hand button on the bottom for some reason. Maybe it's just me, but just use the chat box for questions.
Thanks, Noelle. Yeah, that's interesting. For some reason, I'm not seeing it right now either. I'm not sure why.
Zoom, who knows? Zoom always is changing.
Right. But yeah, chat box, awesome. So we have Tate Yoder here with us tonight. And Tate Yoder has done numerous wonderful videos and projects for Blue Hill Heritage Trust in the past. I think he's known Chrissy Allen, who's our development director, for pretty much his whole life. And we actually have a beautiful video that he did, and it's front and center on our home webpage. So I'll put that in the chat box as well in case you want to watch it. But currently he's working for the Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries as a media specialist. So it's going to be really exciting today to learn about some of his projects. Thank you so much, Tate, for being here with us.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and thanks for hosting this awesome web series. I think it's really great what you're doing and bringing folks from all different realms into this and getting a chance to hear from them. So I feel honored to be a part of it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and hopefully this all comes up. Just maybe a thumbs up if that comes through. Super. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Like I said, I'm honored to be here and share some insights that I've come across over the last few years of doing video work for nonprofits. I'm hoping it to be fairly casual, but informative, and that you'll be able to get something out of it, whether you're in as a part of a nonprofit or not. This is not necessarily a technical talk, so I'm not going to be diving really deep into how to create videos or the technical aspects, but really more share observations and aspects of how video can benefit nonprofits, sort of outside of the more common ways that we know of. A brief background about who I am. Promise I'll keep this fairly short, but I did grow up on the Blue Hill Peninsula. I feel fortunate to have developed a really strong connection to the landscape and the waters and this community here. And through video work, I feel like it's enhanced that connection even deeper. And I feel very fortunate to have been able to find some path to bring back to my community and my area that I grew up in this capacity. So I just thought I'd mention a little bit about that. I wanted to give a quick shout out to some of the nonprofits that I've been fortunate enough to have worked with before joining Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries. Much of the experiences and the aspects and benefits that I'll be talking about have really been formed through the partnerships that I've been fortunate to have with these types of nonprofits. I'm sure I'm forgetting some here, but it's interesting that I've kind of joined this realm of nonprofit work through video, and I feel very fortunate to have been able to connect with so many different issues and concerns and public addresses through this. And so I wanted to just sort of give a shout out to that, because I think a lot of the experiences I've had are formed through the connections that I've made through nonprofits. So like Lander said, I work at Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries. I'm the media specialist there. And for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we're based in Stonington, Maine, but we do work across down east and eastern Maine. We work to secure a sustainable future for fisheries and fishing communities in eastern Maine and beyond. We do that through bringing together fishermen and harvesters, scientists, policymakers, businesses and community leaders, citizens to create and implement sustainable solutions for communities that depend on wild fisheries, aquaculture, and the seafood economy. I'll dive a little bit more deeper into what we do on a program basis and what that work looks like in just a little bit, but I wanted to give you that that background for where I'm coming from. My work at MCCF can really be broken up into three main areas. It's primarily to promote MCCF in our programs, so promoting the organization as a whole, as well as the individual programs and projects that we're working on, as well as assisting those programs in outreach objectives. So oftentimes, whether that's in the educational realm or in the management realm, we do work across a wide range of projects, and we address issues that are very complex. And so as you'll see in just a little bit, assisting those program and outreach objectives is another key aspect about my job there. And thirdly, to use video and media as an educational tool to educate the broader public about Maine's coastal fisheries and the communities that we aim to support. When talking about video, I'm going to be referencing video and media and quite a bit throughout this talk, but I wanted to give sort of a breadth of forms, purposes, lengths, the tools that we use in video, where they go, just to show that it can get complex. As you'll see, for forms, you have everything from narrative and nonfiction to documentaries, live streaming, 360-degree video, virtual realities. There's a lot of different forms. Purposes, everything from marketing to promotional to specifically maybe education or outreach. For lengths, you have everything from a TikTok video, less than a minute, to short form, under 10 minutes, or long form, feature length film, or even continuous live streaming of a video. For tools, it's getting better and better every day. 20 years ago, when you were talking about video, you were talking about primarily using camcorders or VHS tapes. And so for that, it's grown quite a bit, the breadth of tools. And so we're everything from DSLRs now to cameras and action cams and webcams even. And the platforms of which we view these videos are growing and growing all the time, primarily through YouTube, broadcast, or cable TV, Facebook, Instagram. So when we're talking about video, it can get a little bit confusing. So I wanted to just sort of bring this up. Ultimately, it's the recording of moving visual images made digitally or on videotape. I think this definition, to me, kind of encapsulates all of those different types of video into one in a way that makes sense and is still relevant across those different types of videos. Just gonna see here. Ultimately, though, they all come down to forming a story, telling a story, regardless of what these types or forms or purpose or lengths or the tools you use. You have to tell a story. In the independent film world, there's a saying that goes story over everything. And that basically means that regardless of what you're trying to tell, story is really kind of the key aspect of what you should be aiming for. So whether you have a DSLR or a cell phone, whether you're making a long video or a short video, focusing on story is really key. I'm just going to take a quick drink here. So what's up with video? There's a lot of talk about video. I wanted to bring forth three stats or perspectives into why video is so important before we kind of dive into some of the more benefits of them. Just to kind of give you an idea of why video is something worth talking about, something worth thinking about. If you're, let's say, a for-profit or a nonprofit business, it's something to work a nonprofit organization, it's worth considering video, really primarily for these three reasons. There's an enormous demand. I was shocked to hear this. I was actually looking up some stats to come up with, just because I think it's important to look at numbers when talking about something that's sort of ambiguous and subjective at times. But a third of all the time that people spend online is dedicated to watching videos. So there's an enormous demand. There's something there that engages people, that people want to watch. Every single day, 1 billion hours of video are watched on YouTube alone. 1 billion hours. That's just an absurd number to me that I can't even quite comprehend. But it just goes to show that, you know, there's a demand for it. One could say that it's oversaturated, right? And adding to that, the billions of hours that people watch every day might not necessarily be the right approach. But I think when talking about video, it's just important to realize that there is an extreme demand for this type of content and this type of information to be conveyed. Secondly, it's highly efficient messaging. There's a saying, you know, if a picture is worth 1,000 words. I love this quote from James McQueevy saying, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then 1 minute of video is worth 1.8 million words. And I think part of that is maybe a little bit abstract and maybe exaggerated, but the basic premise is if there's 24, 30 frames, 60 frames per second in a video, that ends up being a lot of pictures. And when combined with audio, video can be really extremely effective way in conveying a message of what you're aiming to share. And thirdly, retaining information. Viewers retain up to 95% of a message when watching it in a video, compared to only 10% when reading it via text. And I think this just really goes to show that when trying to bring up complex problems or complex concepts, which I'll talk a little bit about in just a second, video can be a really powerful way of doing that. Text is always going to be here. It's not going away. But I think what video can provide is a bit more the ability for the audience to retain that information in a way that they'll remember it more. Okay, let's see here. So at this point, I'd like to transition into really the main point of this talk, and that's around benefits of video that are somewhat maybe outside of the realm of what we consider beneficial for nonprofits, maybe not necessarily a common way you might think of when thinking about the benefits of video. The first one is conveying complex concepts. Nonprofits are oftentimes already in this realm. The issues that they are aiming to tackle are complex, multifaceted. Video allows for us to kind of convey those key messages in a way that our audience can remember and visualize the sort of important nuances that are sometimes hidden within, a large group of text or a large paragraph. At MCCF, the majority of our work can be broken into 3 realms, and that's within collaborative education, collaborative research, and collaborative management. When we talk about our work, it can oftentimes be difficult to really visualize and understand what we're talking about, who our stakeholders are, where we do our work, why we do our work, the issues that we're aiming to tackle. And so for I'm sorry, I'm just going to back up one second. This is a Venn diagram of our program areas that kind of shows that even though, we have these 3 realms, oftentimes they can be overlapping. You might have a project that fits within collaborative management and collaborative education, or vice versa, or all 3. And I think when talking about our program areas, it can get difficult to really try to truly describe what it is that we do. So for a Giving Tuesday in 2020, Paul Anderson, who's on this chat, I believe this today on this webinar, he's the executive director at Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries, and he challenged me with creating a video that basically told the story of who we are as a as an organization, but what our programs really are, and who we aim to support, and our stakeholders, and where we're working. And so what we came up with is this short video that I'll play in just a second, that aims to describe what we do in a way that is within the context of a Giving Tuesday video. So it's aiming for to provide, a promotional piece that will help us fundraise for the organization, as well as thank our fundraisers and our supporters, but in a way that helps tell our story. And so I'm going to go ahead and play that right now.
Hi, my name's Paul Anderson. I'm the Executive Director at the Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries. Our mission is to sustain coastal fishing communities like Stonington. We can't do this important work without your help. Thank you.
So we're down here at Hagen Dock with the Eastern Maine Skippers Program class from Deer Isle Stonington High School, and they're working on life raft inflation and survival suit use and training. Thanks to your support, we're able to do things like this for the young generation of fishermen up and down the coast here in Eastern Maine. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
It's the middle of November and we're setting a beach seine, trying to find out where juvenile alewives rear in the Bagaduce estuary. Your support's helping me help these guys locally monitor and manage their river herring fisheries.
It's because of supporters like you that I get to have the best job in the world. We're out on the clay banks today on one of our Sentinel survey sites. We're sampling ground fish to try to get a better idea of stock structure and abundance. Oh boy! That was a good fight. Nice dog.
Your support helps me work with fishermen and learn from them so I can better integrate their knowledge into fisheries policy and scientific research so we can ensure fishing futures for these families.
This is Leroy, your host that's been hosting the videos in the past. I hope that you have enjoyed the videos as much as we've enjoyed making them. Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries does a lot for the community here, and if they can help promote ideas to sustain the fishery, it's all the better for everybody involved. When I grew up, it was there for me almost 80 years ago, and I hope it's there for another 80 years for the younger people coming up. We appreciate any and all help that we can get to sustain it. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to doing some more videos for you.
Awesome. So, as you can tell, I think when I first started describing what we do at MCCF, I'm very curious as to what you assumed or what you thought about, if you're not familiar with us, compared to what you think of the organization now after watching that. Conveying that those types of complex, concepts can be difficult. And I don't necessarily think that this shares it all, but hopefully what it does is share a bit more about who we are and as an organization to better effectively convey the messages and ideas that we aim to share. The second benefit of video that video brings to nonprofits that I want to talk about is the ability to share stakeholder stories. Sharing their stories matters. It isn't necessarily a new idea that I'm going to talk about, but it's something that I'd love to see nonprofits do more of. Amplifying the voices of those that you as a nonprofit or we as a nonprofit aim to support is beneficial from all aspects. You're showing that their voice and idea matter. You're getting local voices into this media and into these realms, and that can help advance and further your mission as a nonprofit or our mission as a nonprofit. Most importantly, though, they can tell these stories, your stakeholders can tell these stories so much more authentically than we ever could. Their stories are genuine and their experiences are why we do the work that we do. Nonprofits are not necessarily the only entity to do this type of work and share these types of local stories. But I do think that I do think nonprofits are in a really good position to do that. They can also realize the additional benefits of doing that. Obviously, local journalists and local newspapers can be another way for these stories to be told. But nonprofits also work within a community or a specific region, and oftentimes are working on issues that are, matters that are also happening on the larger scale nationally and globally. So these stories can help put into context these larger issues, these larger matters, into how it's affecting us on the local level, and create digestible, tangible actions that we can take at that local level, as well as create the framework for necessary, dialogue to be had, to engage and further that outreach. To attempt the style of content creation, pause this 1 second. To attempt the style of content creation of sharing stakeholder stories, we started a concept video series called Fishery Vignettes, to highlight the stories of fishermen and those involved in the diverse range of fisheries here in coastal Maine, and the community members that we aim to support. And the goal was to create sort of a platform or a series to hear about what they do and why they do it. I'd like to share the first pilot episode of that series with you now, featuring David Tarr, who's also on our as a board member at the Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries, around his life in scallop diving.
My dad dug clams part-time, and I would do that with him, go out on the boat, and I would dig half a bushel of clams and I would sell them. I don't even really remember what it was, but it was like $4 or $5. It wasn't a lot, but at the time, for a kid, 7, 8 years old, that was some money. As I got a little older, I got better at clamming and kind of earned my spending money late grammar school and high school doing that, but also was getting more interested in lobstering and scalloping and ground fishing and things that were going on around then. Seeing a pile of fish or scallops or whatever it was we were catching, it was just fun. It was fun to catch all that stuff. My dad had a scallop boat when I was in high school, and I worked on that. My brother and I did. And he also tended some scallop divers. And I just thought those guys were cool. They going out on that boat and watching these guys jump in the water and going down and picking up those scallops. It was something to me. I just thought that was kind of neat and wanted to do it. I started scallop diving in high school a little bit. Probably only went maybe a dozen times while I was in high school, and didn't catch much. Was diving in a wetsuit, froze my butt off. I mean, it was cold. But had these mentors that were kind of showing me how to do it, where to go. After high school, I had a job for about 6 months, and I got fired from it, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. It was coming into the fall, and I went out and bought a dry suit, and I started scalloping. At first, it was hard. I didn't catch a lot. I had to learn how to do everything, just where to go and figure out how, which direction to swim underwater to find scallops more. But eventually, after that first season, by the end of it, I was doing okay. I was probably 19 years old when I started building my boat, maybe 20, and back then, the banks wouldn't even talk to you about a loan for a boat. That was ridiculous. You had to have quite a lot of skin in the game, and I just didn't have it at the time. So started with a fiberglass hull and just kept buying parts as I could. When I built the boat, I did build it mind of going ground fishing, and it must have been about 1990. I would have been applying for the permit, so I would have been about 23. But when I talked to National Marine Fisheries Service, they said, well, we'll issue the permit, but you know, you may not have it more than 6 months. We don't know because we were changing the rules. And so that kind of scared me. And so stupidly, I didn't actually apply for the permit because I thought, well, they're just going to take it away. No way I was borrowing the money for that. So I ended up scalloping with the boat and started lobstering kind of on a shoestring and built everything up from there. Richard's really good. He pays it. I know, you know, his first concern is safety for me, which is good. I mean, I need someone watching my back. And like you said, we can't talk, but he's watching my bubbles, and so he's kind of like, he knows what direction I'm working. It really is just something that you have to work out with someone.
He's teaching me lots of tricks like shake, roll over, speak.
A farmer, I think, is more invested in some ways than a fisherman is, because they planted the seed and then they weeded the seed and they fertilized the seed. And we don't do that, but yet we still are so connected to all the management side of it and making sure that we're ethically doing it, that we're not cleaning the population out with it. We'll have something to come back for the next year. Currently, I'm on the Zone C Council, Lobster Advisory Council, the Scallop Advisory Council, the Shellfish Management Committee in town. I think it's important to be involved. A lot of people, like I said, feel like it doesn't make a difference, but I know it does. I think that it's got a lot of potential, and it's definitely, from the diving end of it, it's more appreciated now than it was 20 or 30 years ago. My phone rings off the hook for scallops. People love them. And they like getting them direct from us fishermen because they know where they came from. It's about the most organic thing you can get is fish from the ocean. I like that, producing something that is just highly desirable, and you just feel good about it at the end of the day. I enjoy it, and I'm hoping that we'll get some younger people into it. Unfortunately, at this point, it starts with getting the permits to do something, but there's lots of things you can do that will get your foot in the door and get you working on the water. I hope to slow down someday, but I don't think I'll ever stop doing it. Most fishermen don't. I know people well into their 80s that are still doing it, and I probably will do the same.
So I know that was a bit, I'm just going to go back one here. Nope. Yeah. So I know that was a bit longer than that first piece, but I wanted to share that mostly because I think it's important to kind of distinguish the differences between how videos can be and the different ways that they can emerge. For this, I think the main thing I just want to point out is that, you know, we were not attempting to promote or share anything specific about MCCF. Of course, our logo is on there and he's a part of our board, but we're mostly interested in sharing David's story, right? Putting our work in the context of who we aim to support. I would argue that conveying our messages is just as important as making sure that our audiences understand the context of which we do our work in and the people we aim to support. Though we're talking about nonprofits today, I think it's good to take a look at for-profit work every once in a while for tactics they use to build brand awareness. I think one really great example is Yeti with their branded content. If you're not familiar with Yeti, they make and sell coolers, drinkware, bags that are aimed to be durable and for the outdoor enthusiast. Judging by, you know, the video that's playing here, this is a mixture of shots from films that they've created throughout the years. You can kind of get a sense for who their clientele or who their potential customer might be just through visuals, right? There isn't even sound on these. Instead of stakeholders, they tell the story of their audience, their customers, their potential customers. They've been producing and releasing content for years around this, taking viewers to pretty wild places. and telling timeless and simple stories. They're succeeding in this because they understand that there's a difference between selling, brand building, and building trust within a community. And if anything, these films aren't meant to sell anything. It's meant to help build their community and their brand awareness. So I thought I'd just use that as a good example. It's just about finished. The last, one second, the last benefit that I want to talk about here is using the video product and video production process as an outreach tool. Oftentimes when we talk about video being a tool for outreach objectives, we're talking about the video product, the digital file that exists somewhere on some platform that we hope our audiences will watch. But recently what I've discovered is that the process of producing videos can itself be a form of outreach, be a form of a way of engaging with our stakeholders. One example of this that's outside MCCF, but I thought might be worth bringing up is on a recent project I worked with a nonprofit whose goal with a video was to promote the organization and their objectives, but also to use the video as a way to fundraise and further community support for their project. Early on in the process, I could kind of tell that even though they were hoping to use the video for building that community support, they were really going to be using the video production process as a way to start that community support building, finding community members to speak on camera about issues they hoped to resolve or the benefits of their of this nonprofit's approach in and of itself became an avenue or a catalyst, you might say, to further their connection with community members. In the interviews that we conducted, concerns were brought up about the nonprofit's approach, but because the members of the nonprofit were heavily involved throughout this process, they were able to address those concerns and have some meaningful dialogue that ultimately ended up with the person that we were interviewing, fully supporting the project. In the case of MCCF, I think every time I'm out photographing, photographing or filming with a fisherman or a community member, I get a chance to connect with them and engage with them on certain issues in their environment. This is a picture of the setup that I had to interview Bailey Bowden for alewife restoration and co-management film in the Bagaduce that I'm going to be sharing a trailer at the end of this talk with you. But Bailey has been, a key figure in this realm of restoration and co-management in the Bagaduce around alewife, a sea-run fish. And getting a chance to interview him was enormously helpful, not only for my understanding of the project, but of course to get his perspective for the film. And I think these types of setups can be really beneficial, not only as a way to create a video product, but also to further that connection with the community members that we aim to support. Some of the most memorable moments for me at MCCF have been when I could share a photo or a video with a fisherman who were excited to see what I captured. Much like fishermen with unknown fishing conditions, even though I set out with a specific shot list, I have no idea what I'll gather sometimes. And so I think sharing this type of experience of collaborating with our stakeholders, the fishermen, the community members we work with on video projects in their arena, I think can really have lasting benefits that go outside the traditional video product realm. So if you know us in our work, at this point, you might be wondering why I haven't talked anything about Ask Leroy. And the reason why is because I think this video series, Ask Leroy, has all of the three benefits that I've talked about today. For those of you who don't know what Ask Leroy is, it's a video series that we started in the summer of 2020 to basically provide an avenue for folks to engage with Leroy in the midst of the pandemic. I was actually brought onto MCCF because of this need to further that engagement. Leroy had worked in our Discovery Wharf, which is our public interface with exhibits featuring all types of things, whether that's virtual reality displays or a touch tank. Leroy worked that in the summer of 2019, and everyone loved him. He's a fisherman with 60 plus years, I believe, of on the water and on the flat experience. And so he is just a wealth of information that he loves to share with anyone willing to ask a question. And so that idea, that simple idea of asking a question became the pinnacle of this video series, where you could ask a question, any question, to Leroy, we set up a number and a voicemail, and you could call in with a question to ask Leroy, and we would ask him on in a video recording and then put that out. And it became a fairly regular series, about once every couple of weeks. At this point, it's now down to about once a month. But I thought that this was a really great example to kind of highlight each of those benefits that I've talked about. Conveying complex concepts is so much easier when you have somebody like Leroy, who can bring you in and engage you and entertain you in ways you never thought were possible, to bring the ideas of the fishing industry into a new light, so that you can think about them in a way that you might not have before. Sharing stakeholder stories. Even though Leroy works with us, he is part of our stakeholder group. He and his family and the community that he lives in depend upon the fishing industries of coastal Maine. And so for us to be able to share, for Leroy to be able to share his stories, that again, bringing so many different aspects of video into this realm of a talk show series, which is so bizarre. And lastly, using the video production process as a form of outreach, being able to have this platform where anyone can call in with a question, that is inherently a way to engage with our audiences, with our stakeholders. And so I think Ask Leroy, this video series, is really kind of an exemplary of what I consider to be the reason why I think MCCF is doing some neat things in the video realm. And that's because we're incorporating these other aspects of video and of media that kind of go outside the traditional video product being the only type of outreach tool. So I'm going to play, let's see, I think we have a little bit of time here. I'm going to go ahead and play an Ask Leroy video. If you haven't seen it, I thought I would just give you a chance to. I'm not sure if I'll play the whole episode, but we shall see. We'll go ahead and start it.
Hello there, old fella. Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah. How are ya? Eh? Oh, that your dog? That's just Winston Churchill. Hello there, old fella. Come on, sit down there. You ran into a brick wall somewhere? Did ya? Yeah. You the boss?
She's the boss, all right.
Yeah, come here, boy. Inside. Get in there.
My name is Aria, and I'm from Manchester, Tennessee. My question is, how does a blue lobster get its pigment? Thank you.
Some of the earlier theories was that it was determined partly by their diet. But since then, we have a marine biologist on staff here with us, and she says it's a gene mutation. And they're very rare. There's probably 1 in a million. Over the years, I've caught several of them. However, if you catch a lobster and you turn him over, there is blue pigmentation on the bottom of about every lobster. I've caught spotted ones, orange with black spots, 2 crusher claws. I've caught them with 2 of the tearing claws. I've caught them with 3 claws. I've caught one with 4 claws. So over the years, you see all kinds of different mutations of the lobsters. Okay? Hope that answers your question. Keep them coming.
Hi, Leroy. This is Marissa from Boston, Massachusetts. So I was wondering, in episode 1 of Ask Leroy, you said that stealing is stealing and it's wrong. So if that's the case, then how come you stole all of our hearts? I just wanted to say that. I love the show. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Bye.
Well, I stole your heart because you're so special. No, we try to, this is a business where honesty, if you want to stay in business, is going to be what you do. If I'm going to steal from my neighbor out down the bay, I might as well go to his house when he's down the bay and steal the food out of his refrigerator. Same thing. Stealing is stealing. But I'm going to keep your heart. Keep the questions coming.
Hi, Leroy. This is Brian. Live in Wells. Lived in Maine my whole life. Just got my recreational license, lobster license, and I'm wondering, I've been seeing on YouTube videos that you have to mark your line with paint. But reading the law book, I'm not seeing that. So I'm wondering, what do you do?
The rules that the fishermen are dealing with is for the federal waters, the federal permits. And these new rules that they come up with doesn't pertain to the inshore fishery inside the 3-mile limit, just the outside fishery, the federal permits. Now, no matter where you're fishing along the coast of Maine, if you're inside that 3-mile line, whether you're in 10 feet of water or 110 feet, the rules are the same. Sometimes they print the rule books, are printed early to get them out in the mail, and a lot of times some of the laws haven't been either voted on or passed at the time the book is printed. So if there's any question that you're not sure of, go online and check it with DMR in Augusta, or if you see your coastal warden, you can stop and talk to him and he can fill you in. And sometimes they get confused, so there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. I do know, talking to a lot of guys, they're not going to go offshore this year because it's too far off there with the expenses the way they are. They're just not going. As the rules and regulations keep changing and you got to spend the money to keep up with all of this stuff, it puts a burden on some of the smaller fishermen. Most people in this area are lobstermen, but it's not only the lobstermen. All the industries are being affected by these rules, not just the lobstermen. Of course, the lobstermen probably gets hit a little harder for the reason that you can't bring your equipment home at night like you do a scallop drag. When you're done scalloping the end of the day, you put the drag aboard the boat, you go home. You got your gear with you. Lobstermen can't do that. This year has been a brutal winter because it's blowed just about every day. So a lot of those guys are just bringing their traps in from offshore because they got to make this changeover. And now they can't get the stuff to do it. They can't get the rope. The manufacturers haven't manufactured the rope because they didn't know what the rules was going to be. So they weren't going to roll up $1 million worth of rope in a warehouse if nobody wants it and you can't sell it. So everybody's scrambling to try to do what they need to do. It's hard when you start in the spring because there's a lot of work you do that you don't get paid for. You got to get the traps out of the pile, put them on a trailer, bring them down the shore, put them on the boat, bait up the bags or bait up the needles, go offshore, set that load, go back, get another load, and you keep doing that till you get all 800 in the water. You don't get paid. There's no money. So you don't earn any money until you go and start pulling those traps and if there's any lobsters, to get the lobsters out. So, and it's a gamble. It's like playing cards. You get a good hand, you win the pot. If you don't, you get nothing. You squeeze them together and you fold up and you're done. So, yeah, there's a lot to it. A lot to it. I hope that answers your question for you. So if you got some questions, 224-58 Leroy. We will get you an answer. you don't always have to ask questions on the lobster industry. You can ask on the scallop industry and the mussel industry and urchins and all of that.
All right, well, thanks, Leroy.
Yeah, very good.
I swear that guy could make pretty much about anything interesting. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you're new to the series, I highly encourage you to check out more videos. We have, as you can see, that was episode 26. So we have 25 more of them that you can watch if you so incline. But the reason why I wanted to show this is really just to show that video in itself does not have to always be a highly produced, highly edited product, right? This is a very simple concept. It's asking a question and having them answer. But I think in this format and in this realm, it provides an opportunity for our audience, our stakeholders, to engage with us and ask the questions that need to be asked. The fishing industries are a changing world. It seems like every minute. And so I think having someone like Leroy to provide some insight and just start the dialogue, welcoming anybody into that conversation, I think can really have lasting benefits. And thankfully, we have video that can provide that to a wider audience. So at that, I think I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions and answers.
Hello there, old fella.
If there are any. And as I mentioned earlier, I do have a trailer for a film that I'd love to show after this. So if we don't have any questions, I can kind of jump right into that.
Thank you so much, Tate. It's really wonderful to see all of the work that you're doing and all of the incredible stories you're capturing on video for like the future as well. It's really, really fun. Thank you so much for doing this tonight with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really beautiful footage. I was blown away by, I guess I would say your eye as an artist. You captured really specific scenes and then the bigger picture. Everything was captivating in its own way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We did have one question come in. Is there anything in particular you do to make interviewees comfortable?
Oh, that's a great question. It's something that I think you have to refine over time. One thing that I will say is that giving enough time before you film to talk and just kind of get someone comfortable if they're not used to it is really important. Oftentimes I am filming with folks who have either never been filmed before or never been interviewed before. And so giving yourself enough time to sort of, converse with them, chat it up, make them try to, feel a little bit at ease. I think that can really go a long way. The other thing I'll say is I most of the time am filming with either just myself behind the camera or one, maybe two other people. Most of the time it's just myself. And I think that at times can help. Obviously there's a lot going on. You have changing exposure if you're filming outside, or you have questions that you want to ask, but you need to dial in a setting real quick or check the audio levels. So it can get overwhelming. But I would say if you're just interviewing someone, I think starting out with the basics, the things that they know really well about what they do or who they are, can really help to kind of start that conversation. And then you can bring in more difficult questions that might generate more thought or time for them to consider. I would also say give them the opportunity to say things again. I always say my job, at least in this realm of mostly promotional work, is to make people look good. So I'm not out there to try to, if somebody wants to say something or redo something, I'm always welcome to that. So I would say just be as friendly as you can.
Thanks, Tate. That's really fascinating. We have a few more questions that have come in. Mike says, good videos are great, but do little unless they're viewed by an audience. Is a YouTube channel the best way to get videos in front of people?
Yeah, also a great question. I think platforms is a discussion that is evolving and changing. YouTube does a really great job at basically sharing and recommending videos to folks who might be interested in certain realms, but wouldn't come across your channel otherwise. So for instance, if I was interested in fly fishing, or if I was interested in coastal Maine towns and we're watching tourist videos, for instance, we might actually have a chance at MCCF to have our videos be recommended to them based on location or interest or sort of similar viewed content. And so I think YouTube is a really great way for you to tap into wider audiences that might not always be known. And then as for other social media, I would say Facebook and Instagram is also more and more creating, tools and systems to recommend videos to audiences that might not come across your stuff otherwise. So I would say YouTube is one of my favorites, but it's not the only one. And I think a successful email marketing campaign can link a YouTube video and have much more effect than just relying on YouTube recommendations. So it's kind of an all hands on deck approach, trying to get it in front of your audience.
That's great, thank you. Have you had the experience of people saying no when asked to be interviewed, or not want to sign a release?
Yeah, also great question. The first one, saying no, it has happened a couple of times. I mostly don't push it to that point. If I can get sort of any, verbal cues or maybe I don't want to do that. And so I think that, it's not necessarily a reflection of what what you're doing or the project you're working on or who you are. It's more that they're just not comfortable, and you have to respect that. And so, yeah, it happens. It does happen. As for not signing a release, most of the time, I think when I describe what I'm doing, they're pretty willing. I actually interned at LL Bean for a couple of summers, and I had to photograph their concert series. And anytime I got a photo of somebody who you could recognize their face, I'd have to go up to them and ask if they could sign a release form. It was the worst part about the job. But I will say it also gets you really good at approaching people and trying to, kind of come from a common ground sense where, you're both there with different intentions. One person is there to enjoy a concert. My job, I'm working, I'm on the clock. So my job is to get, engaging photographs that kind of tell the story of what that concert series is all about. So trying to come with some common ground, I think, can also help. But I think I would just say it's not a reflection of who you are. It's really just they don't want to at that time, and you have to respect that.
Thank you, Tate.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I, as a writer, before I was working at IHT, I was doing a lot of freelance writing and did some work with nonprofit video storytellers, videographers. And a big part of the conversation was some of the resistance that they were receiving just as in the value of video storytelling. And I'm curious if it seems like you've worked with a good amount of organizations, if you've received resistance in offering video storytelling, and maybe what that resistance was, if there was any, and how you went about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say for the most part, I haven't received a lot of resistance, though I can tell at times when there is sort of hesitancy to focus more on the story and not necessarily the sort of promotional aspects of a video. So, an organization nonprofit needs to raise funds, whether we like it or not. And sometimes it can feel like sharing stories of stakeholders, for instance, isn't the best way to do that, right? If you're not out there and actively showing this is the work that we do and this is why we do it, then sometimes it can feel like it's not worth the effort. But I would just say, again, I think, putting the work that we do or the work that any nonprofit does within the context of where it's being done, who the stakeholders are, why they do what they do. That context can really help. And so I would say if there is any hesitancy, it's usually I just sort of bring that aspect up. It's that it's storytelling can really have lasting benefits that aren't necessarily numbers or focusing on fundraising.
Thank you.
I love that as well. Thank you, Tate. Would you like to share your the trailer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually good timing. It's about 3 minutes, so that'll wrap up the hour here.
Great.
Perfect.
The vision of restoring connectivity throughout the watershed sounded amazing, daunting, but possibly achievable.
The alewife is a sea-run fish. The Passamaquoddy people call them the fish that feed all.
For thousands of years, these rivers were a focal point for travel, as a source of food.
It was astronomical. It was a huge run of alewives.
The history of alewife and the Bagadoos is really analogous to what they've gone through in the whole state of Maine and arguably the Atlantic coast.
Some people think that, oh, the beavers leave a little hole for the fish to go through. No, they don't. There's no little hole.
30 years ago, it was easy to get lobster bait. It's not easy anymore.
It's local organic. How can you beat it?
And the alewife is an example of a keystone species, and when you yank that out of the arch, the rest of it collapses.
What's unique about Maine is there are communities with people that still have a memory of what these fish runs could be like.
There's a system set up to include those fishermen and those community members in the management.
This is people's food, this is people's livelihood, and we need to do something to make it right.
You remove a dam, or you put in a fishway, or you fix a culvert, the alewives respond.
Partnerships are critical to this effort. No one entity could do this alone.
As this is really truly a watershed scale effort, which really means that the benefits we get out of it are going to be sustainable into the future.
The whole project just kind of grew exponentially overnight and blossomed into what we have now, which is a complete restoration of all the ponds on the Bagadoos River.
Super. Yeah. So if you're interested in seeing more at the end there, I can probably pause on that last frame. But we're gonna have a screen. Oh, 1 second. Let me just pull this up here. Yeah, so on May 21st, we're going to be screening the full film at Penobscot Community School. At 8 o'clock, it's going to be an outdoor screening, so that's why it's so late. And that May 21st also just happens to be World Fish Migration Day, which is a global celebration to create awareness about the importance of migratory fish in free-flowing rivers. So we'll be sharing more information at very soon, actually, I believe. On MCCF's social media channels and our website. So stay tuned.
That's awesome. That just totally gives me goosebumps, the achievement of this restoration work. And
it
the
is
videos.
pretty remarkable. Yeah, it's a really remarkable project that they were able to complete. So it's cool to be able to tell that story. Thank you.
Yeah, it communicated so much with so little, arguably. I mean, I'm sure the effort behind the scenes was not little, but yeah, I have goosebumps as well, and I'll be sure to share that with the IHT community, and I will come to the viewing of that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Hopefully, that is Wings, Waves, and Woods weekend, but that could be a good thing to share in correlation with that.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, actually.
Yeah, I'll do
Hey,
that.
What time does the video start?
The screening is going to start at 8 o'clock because it's an outdoor screening it's a little bit later. So we have to wait until it's a bit dark to screen. But if weather permitting that. So if it's not, we'll be inside in the gym.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I know we're at 5 p.m. For those of you in the audience, we're going to have this as a recording. So if you would like to share it with friends or family, it will be up on the Blue Layer Distress YouTube channel and then also on the IHT website. And Tate, I can send you a link as well if you guys want to use it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tate. Thank you for offering your expertise so generously.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share, and thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing you out in the community soon.
Yes. Yeah, I'll be out there. You'll see me with a camera probably.
Okay. Sounds good. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.